Time to fight fear with faith. Jody Parr is a survivor who is no longer staying silent. She and her guest will fuel you up so you too can fight fear. Uplifting and inspirational stories that will rock you to your core. We don't tiptoe around the truth. We steamroll it in a bold way. This is your life, and now is the time to start living it. Get ready for the Faith Over Fear podcast with Jody Parr. Now, welcome Jody Parr to inspire you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Faith Over Fear. I'm so excited that you guys are here today. I have an amazing guest all the way from London that I'm so super excited to tell you guys about. Natalie Coleman and I actually reached out social media. She reached out to me to do an interview with her. Serenity to Steps is a show that she has with Speak Up and Empower. And I was honored to do it. But as I got to know her, I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be on my podcast. So I'm so excited, Natalie, that you are here. She is a survivor. She is an overcomer. So let me welcome you, Natalie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Jody, thank you so much. I'm also super excited to see you again and to for the opportunity to share my story, which is a story of hope. Yeah. And that's the message that I want to get across. So it's so beautiful to see you again, and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump right in because I know we have a bunch to cover. So tell me the first time you felt fear in your life.
You know what? I'm going to tell you a little story that'll probably make you giggle, but there's a reason behind it.
Okay.
I must have been about no more than 4 or 5, Jody. Mm-hmm. And my brother and myself were visiting an aunt and uncle, obviously in South Africa, which is where I grew up, where I was born. And we were in the back garden of their house, and they had a tortoise. Yeah. And 1 minute we were looking at this tortoise, and the next minute I remember running at breakneck speed with my brother and I, looking at each other with the fear of God in our faces, because this tortoise was chasing us.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay, so there's something's wrong with that picture, because the tortoise certainly wouldn't be chasing us. But I just remember how petrified I was of this tortoise that was chasing us. And I remember my brother's face as well. He was also like, oh my God, this thing's coming to get us. And the reason I think of that is because now that's completely irrational. There's no way that can be. And my life progressed being consumed with levels of irrational fear. Mm-hmm. You know, if that's just a sort of a comedic take on the beginning of it, it does kind of epitomize how my life would be governed, would be ruled by stuff that I should never have been afraid of, but I was. And so we soon left Auntie Thelma and Uncle Sid's house, I'm sure, in one piece, and the tortoise didn't get us. But I grew up in an age where children were seen and not heard, and a relatively conservative society as well. And I think that our household and my mum and my dad rest his soul, took that to the extreme, and never allowed to speak up, never allowed to have a voice, never allowed to answer back, never allowed to defend ourselves even. And now the one thing I can say is that all of this stuff is starting to make sense to me in my life now. It obviously didn't make any sense to me as a little girl growing up. And so from a very young age, I wasn't allowed to talk. I wasn't allowed to defend myself. I didn't have a voice because I wasn't allowed to have one. And the same pretty much went for my brother. And the home was the home was very miserable. My parents weren't happy. I don't remember happy times between my mum and my dad. I really don't. They were married for 10 years. And so, I had this fear of speaking up, this, not being worthy of being heard. And it's quite hard to talk about, but I have to talk about it. And I have spoken about it before. But, when I was very young, I experienced sexual abuse in the home that no little girl should ever have to go through. At the hands of the one person that's supposed to protect them, and talk about another time of fear that really invoked the most terrible fear in me. It really did, because I used to know when the times would arrive, and it's taken me a long time to even start processing it, and that went on for quite a long for quite a long time. But as a little girl, I was too scared to say anything, and so the secret stayed buried with me. I could only have been between 7 and 10 that this was going on. My parents had got separated, and I had to go and stay at his house, and this stuff was going on. So the confusion, the conflict, the fear, the shame, that as a little girl, I had to learn to deal with. And from a very young age, this world in which I lived that felt so out of control, so unprotected, I had to find a survival mechanism. And from a very young age, I started to turn that control to food. And I couldn't have been more than about 11 or 12 when I developed a terrible eating disorder. And I look back, and I still don't understand eating disorders and anorexia the way it is. We'll put it this way: it's actually there's not a total understanding of it, but I can tell you that it became my friend. It became my protector. It became the place that I went to when I needed comfort and to say, listen, I might not be getting the love, the support, the encouragement, and the stability that I'm looking for in a place where it really should be unconditional. I found it in a dysfunctional behavior, i.e. anorexia, eating disorder, and that morphed itself into over-exercising. And so that was one of my my coping mechanisms as a youngster. And it was never dealt with, and it was never acknowledged. All of these things that were going on behind closed doors. It was evident that I was wafer thin. I mean, ridiculously, but it wasn't acknowledged, and there was no help forthcoming. So I just thought, well, that's cool, because it's mine anyway. So no one's touching this. I'll just keep on doing what I need to do to keep control. And then I discovered alcohol at the age of 13. Now, I don't think that the first time I drank was to escape problems. I drank because alcohol was always available in the home. In South Africa, it's a drinking culture. It really is. And alcohol's always available. From a very young age, I know that I used to have little shots of sherry at, sort of Christmas time. And there was always something about, there's always beer. And my father's alcoholic, and his line of his family are alcoholics. So it was nothing abnormal to me. And so when I went and visited my friend to have a sleepover, and she said, let's give this a whirl. My mom's out, she said. my mum's out, and like any self-respecting South African will have a big 5 liter of wine in their kitchen, and we proceeded to get stuck into this, and I was hideously ill. I really, really was. I must have had alcohol poisoning, and even though the next day I thought I was going to die, and so scared of the bruises that I'd come out with, that I'd fallen down the stairs and all the rest of it, and the repercussions of going home and being ill, and everything that went with it, didn't stop me. And from a young age, I went on to drink what is alcoholically for the rest of my life, and so that, that became my friend too. And now, what's interesting about the alcoholism is that I functioned pretty well, even though I was alcoholic, all my life, because it took me away from that place, that 8-year-old, that little 6-year-old. It took me away from that place, and I'd never dealt with all that stuff from a child, and so it became an amazing companion. And I just had this pressure cooker of past, of burdens, of fear, of pain, building up, that I kept squashed, that I kept what I thought under control for a long time, because I went on to have a relatively successful life. I did, I did well at school. I went to university. I was always achieved on the sports field. And from the outside, and Jody, you and I have spoken about this before, from the outside, everything looked like okay, because I was so conscious of what other people thought, so afraid of not being accepted and liked, that I would do anything to the extreme, or not do anything in case I'd fail, just so that everything looked okay. And it was like I was living a lie almost, all my life. And so, yeah, and I mean, as I say, I'm 47 now, and I think my addiction, which went to drugs as well, sort of, I carried it for all that time, functioned okay, but there's only so far that a person can go. There's only so much that I could physically, emotionally, spiritually, that I could take. And in sort of 2013 or so, it's like, 7 years ago, the cracks were starting to show. And alcoholism is an addiction. It's a progressive illness. It gets worse. It doesn't get better if it's not arrested. And so a few things happened in my life that were quite traumatic, that work scenarios that I couldn't deal with. I thought I could, and pretended that I could. But like I was saying earlier, that that cauldron of stuff that had never been addressed, that I should have, hadn't. And so my good old friend, my eating disorder, just grew a whole new life of its own. It really did. And so, full-blown alcoholic, trying to function successfully, and my eating disorder, which had come and gone throughout my life, which is not uncommon. It reared its ugly head in times of pressure and breakup and things like that. But it really came back with a vengeance, 2013, 2014. And that's when I started to spiral beyond human aid. And as I say, physically, I was desperate. Emotionally, I was finished. Becoming financially bankrupt, spiritually bankrupt. And through an intervention in 2015 was dire. I mean, near deaths, all the rest of it. 2016, my family in South Africa caught wind of how dire it had got, and they put me on a plane, sent me out to South Africa to a private treatment facility. God bless them. I was only talking to my mum about it yesterday, actually. And therein started my journey of a new life. Not without its fight and willingness to let go of that, those chains that had kept me imprisoned and kept me from being free. But I thought that they were serving me. I thought that they were serving me because they did, really. Because, you know, if you'd had the life that I had, you'd be alcoholic, you'd be mentally unstable, you'd be, you know, all of this stuff. So I hung on to the justification of my bad behavior, and it was bad because I couldn't let go of the past. I was living in fear all the time.
Yeah. And, you know, and it's so true. And as you were telling us about your story, I was thinking there's self-medication. And if you think about medicine, when you take some medicine and it doesn't do the trick, then you take more medicine because you're trying to fix something. So as a child, you didn't understand what was happening even within your body. So you are self-medicating first through food. Then that wasn't enough. So then through alcohol, then that wasn't enough. Then through the drugs. And the reason that I can say this is because I can definitely relate to you. Because that's what we do. We're trying to fix that. So when you went into this facility, you went in an atheist, correct?
That's correct.
So tell us what happened.
Yeah.
And the change.
So Jenny, I get
already. I got chill bumps. Like,
oh, praise God.
And it's so good. And so, yeah. So
yeah, this is. I still have to pinch myself sometimes how my life has turned out by the grace of God. Now I went in. I had no clue what I was getting myself into. All I knew is that I was sick as a dog, mad as a fruitcake, you know, going to learn to drink properly or slow down, or little did I know that it was actually going to, you know, to save my life. But that's fine. Okay, I can do a bit of rehab. They had something else in store for me, and God had another plan in store for me. Now, the treatment facility is based on the Minnesota model, which incorporates the 12 steps of recovery. And therein lies one of the greatest miracles of our time. Because it's a spiritual program. People talk about the spiritual element of the 12-step program, but it's not. It's a spiritual program. It's a simple set of steps that allows you, me, and others to connect to a higher power to set us free. Bottom line. Now, you know, don't, but I went in there. I was really mean about people who were spiritual and religious. And I, to be honest with you, I'd had some bad experiences in church and around religion as a youngster. Is that an excuse? Perhaps. Is it because my mom used to force me to go to Sunday school, and I resent, and I had that relationship with my mom as I was growing up that was not healthy? Perhaps. I mean, I don't know, but I think there's a whole lot of that, you know, there's a lot of reasons why I had resentments towards religion. But the 12, yeah, so it was, now you see, God is amazing, because he looked at us alcoholics, right? Back in about 1935, when the 12 steps was developed, was born, right. Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob, and he looked at us and thought, I am so tired of seeing this lot kill themselves when there is actually an answer. And so I'm going to pick this bunch of alcoholics and use their hand to write what needs to be done, i.e., find me, to find a lasting solution to what is a spiritual malady. Okay, and so now, you know, once I gained a semblance of health in treatment, I was put into the groups and, you know, had to engage in the program. I could not get my head around this stuff, you know, step 1 and step 2, and God, it was just God everywhere, and the serenity prayer, and so, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into here? But I just thought, Natalie, you bang out of choices, love. You know, best you just kind of start getting with the program, and knowing, to me, I started to develop a little bit of an open mind. I suppose everybody else was doing it. I thought, oh, it can't be like that bad. So, you know, joined in the program, and slowly but surely started to understand that I'm not in control, and that I am powerless over people, places, and things, and especially over my addiction, over my alcoholism, over my dysfunctional eating behaviors. I'm powerless over those, and as a result, my life has become unmanageable. Fact. And to admit and accept that, that's step 1, the principle being acceptance. Once I did that, and it took a couple of occasions, because once I left rehab, I went and thought it'd be a grand idea to go and, you know, drink a bottle of vodka back in, and second time round, my goodness me, did I realize that there's no level of drinking or using that is safe for me. And the freedom that came with accepting my powerlessness was phenomenal. So now I'm powerless, right? So I need just a little bit of power. I need power. I need additional power to help me to start to live a life of sobriety. Never mind the happiness, at least sobriety. And so began my journey of understanding how, through faith, that I came to believe that a power greater than myself could introduce me to sanity. Never mind restore my sanity, because I don't think I ever really had it, but introduce me to sanity, that a power greater than me. I still couldn't get my head around exactly what it was, but I just knew there had to be something, there is something greater out there. And when I made a decision in step 3, which says that we made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him. When I fell into that decision, my life changed. My life absolutely changed. And I can tell you this, Jody, I remember the moment it happened, the moment that I had a spiritual awakening. Now, we talk about a spiritual awakening through the 12-step process. And the 12 steps, I can say this, has saved the lives of millions of people. Whatever fellowship you're in, whatever it is, but it's a design for living that has saved the lives and improved the lives of so many people in this world. And I remember I was so full of nonsense. I was in rehab, and I was trying to control, because I just had my lack of gratitude in my being sent to rehab was, you know, I paid my family back by leaving rehab and going and, you know, lapsing for the day and behaving poorly. But I was back in, so I was trying to control my husband's emotions back in the UK, trying to control what he'd be thinking, trying to get him to, manipulating the counselor and saying, can I use your phone because I need to get in touch with my husband. Phones are no-nos. You're not allowed them. You're not allowed outside. But, you know, there's me still trying to control it. Say, no, it's okay. Still in denial. It's not that bad. It was that bad. And I remember, God bless him. What a man, Brett. I was in the counselor's office, and he just looked at me and he went, take a look at just take a look at you, girlfriend. You know, you are back in here because you've gone and done it again, and you want to break the rules, try and control what's going on. Look at yourself. And it was on the 6th of November 2016. I remember I was sitting in the office, and all of a sudden I just had tears streaming down my face. And I just felt this, like, it's so hard to describe, but I just had this feeling of relief come over me. And I just remember the tears streaming down my face and going, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I just remember it as clear as daylight. It was a Sunday afternoon around about 3 o'clock. And I remember thinking, it doesn't actually matter whether my husband takes me back. It doesn't matter whether my family wants to disown me. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. I don't need anything. I had this feeling of like this warm blanket just holding me, saying it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I remember walking out of that office, and there began my journey of getting to know God, of putting my faith in a power far greater than me, because leave me in control and it's trouble. Yeah. And close to 4 years, 4 years since that day, my life has, we talk about in the steps, realizing a life beyond our wildest dreams. Yeah. Okay. And I ain't talking cars and jewelry and houses and money and all the rest of it. Let me tell you, the pricelessness of a quiet mind, yes, of serenity, and being able to live in the present without worrying about the future, hiding from my past, being able to live in the present most of the time, is a gift that, that keeps on giving, but is a gift that I did not, I'm one happy customer. I did not see that one coming. And so my relationship with God is growing all the time, from not believing at all in God and being downright mean about it. I don't need anything else. I need the air to breathe. And I need God who guides me and shows me when to slow down, when not to, when to hold my tongue, and when to speak. And I'm learning to speak, because that's an art that I did not have, and I'm learning to speak. But he only does that for me if I listen to him, mm-hmm, and I get out of my way. And I tell you what, Jody, I still get in my way at times. Let me tell you that.
We all
and
do.
Oh yeah. And I still am prone to fear, because, like, let's say in the workplace, it's the big what ifs. What if this, what if this presentation doesn't go for? What if that client has found another supplier? All of that stuff. But then I just have to stop, slow myself down. Started learning to practice breathing exercises. Killer, I tell you what. Really works. But it's a centering, which when I just invite that piece back into my core, and God just reveals himself to me all the time. I don't believe in coincidences, because too many things have happened in my life that are meant to be. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that are giving me a voice, like, talking to you, and speak up and empower, where I can, without fear and self-judgment, speak about my story. And I can do that because I've not only forgiven others, and I have asked for forgiveness, made amends where I've been really, really wrong, but I've forgiven myself.
That is so beautiful. I love that so much. And the enemy uses the what ifs in all of us.
Oh,
All of
yeah.
us. Out of nowhere. You can be having the best day ever. And all of a sudden it's like, what if this happens? And I've learned to replace those what ifs with God can. So whatever
Yeah.
it is, what if, it's like, no, God can fix that. God can make a way. God can,
Yeah.
because the what ifs is just fear, like you mentioned, and it's not even real. It's
No.
thought that the enemy puts there to distract
Yeah.
us into
Yeah.
another, into getting spiraling into this crazy
Yeah.
mindset, where with God, if you immediately clutch that what if, it's like God can. So whatever it is that is a what if, just replace it with God can, and it makes it so much more peaceful, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish we had more time. We're almost at.
Oh my God, don't tell me half
I
an hour's
know,
gone already.
it's awesome. So let everybody know, like, what you're doing now. You're helping so many people. It's such a blessing, the work that you're doing. So tell us
Yeah,
real quick
so
what you're doing now.
yeah, so when I first came into recovery, I threw myself into service,
Yes.
into the fellowships, into helping others, because there is no help and therapy, if you want to call it that, than one addict or one alcoholic or one sufferer helping another, because we can completely relate. And so um, over the sort of 3-4 years now, involved in the fellowships, where we set up meetings, quite organized for a bunch of addicts, I'll tell you that much. And so we have meetings where we come together as groups, as a group, and share our experience, strength, and hope. And we just very soon setting up a new meeting right here for a Sunday morning at 8:30. It's going to be amazing. Sunday sunrise. What a beautiful way to start a Sunday morning. And then everybody can go off to church if they choose to. It's a beautiful way to start a day. I work with another charity called Aspire to Be. It's a really small charity. It's a peer-led support group for people struggling with addiction and mental health problems. Small charity, but it's so beautiful to be a part of a cause that is helping others. And saying all of this, the meeting format has completely changed since COVID. So there's been online meetings and things, but generally, and that's sponsor people. We call it sponsorship. We call it sponsoring. So taking newcomers through the 12 steps, sharing my experience, sharing my hope, the hope, and hope, and that they can find the way out that I have
Yes.
been blessed to find. There's another charity that can't really say too much at the moment, but it's on the boil, that's going to be dealing with exploitation and addiction, homelessness, and people looking for a way out. I just feel so blessed to be able. I love people. I just love people. I drive people at work mad, because she's the crazy one who's always happy. And
Isn't
I
it
just
crazy
love
how we go from
people.
hating people to loving people?
Isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy?
It
Yeah.
is.
And you know what? Like it or leave it, mate. I ain't changing. I have found me, and I like me.
Yes. Yeah.
And so
I love
that's just it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so my purpose in life, ultimate purpose, who knows where the road's going to take me, but I know that as long as I stay close to God,
That's it.
and look after the people that are closest to me, and continue to make amends and forgive and strengthen my relationships, I just couldn't be happier. I don't need anything than God's love and the people in my life and people.
So powerful. So powerful. Thank you so much, Natalie,
Oh,
for sharing. Natalie Coleman, everybody. You can find
thank
her, I'm
you.
sure, on social media underneath your name. Guys, this has been super powerful. Make sure you share this. You never know. I feel like if you don't go into the next step of healing, the next step is usually suicide. And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of people know that, because you continue to try to self-medicate until nothing works, and then you just kind of give up. And so always know there's healing there, and that God wants to take that pain from you. That's so important that you guys know that. And no matter what you're going through, he can get you through. And it's not about religion, it's about a relationship. About a relationship. So we're out of time. Thank you guys for watching. Natalie, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Love you're such a beautiful light and angel, and I just love you so much. And
Love you, darling.
you too. Thank you guys for watching. I am Jody.
Thanks so much.
Please make sure that you rate this video if you're watching on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play or any of those. The rates do help us get more viewers, so I appreciate that. And you guys have a super blessed day. Bye.